Hello everyone and welcome to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today we're going to look at the Ielts exam. Briefly what it is, as well as how to pass it. The Ielts exam is very popular in the Western world and beyond. Some countries have Ielts centres. Because the Ielts exam is operated by the British government, it seems that Ielts centres are very popular amongst those countries which have good ties with the British government. The Ielts exam is a practical English exam. That means that they don't ask you specific questions about grammar or about your knowledge. They want to see your knowledge in practice. You really have to demonstrate by answering some questions on particular topics your knowledge of English. That's very different from someone asking you to give an example of the present perfect tense. They expect you to write it. Native speakers also have to do the Ielts exam when they want to immigrate. So you may be surprised to learn that even for native speakers, the Ielts exam can be very difficult. Why is that? Why would the Ielts exam be very difficult for native speakers? After all, they know the language, don't they? Well, yes, that's very true. Native speakers like me do have a good knowledge of English, of course, but that doesn't mean that they know what the Ielts people are expecting. With Ielts, particularly in the speaking part, it's not really about how much you know, it's about how well you can demonstrate what you know. After all, you're meeting someone for the first time, and it's your big moment to show them your English. But if you don't do that, they might not think that your English is very good. For example, if they say something like describe your favourite book, to only use the present tense to tell them about your favourite book, the book is good, the book isn't good, the book is about blah blah blah. You could answer like that. You're not going to get a very high mark though, because you're only showing them that you know how to use the present tense. I think the secret with Ielts is to know how to hold a conversation, even if you don't know much about the topic. People who are easily able to converse and to be creative do very well at Ielts. Let me give you an example. If the question is, describe your favourite book, you can easily turn that into a story. For example, describe your favourite book. Well, I remember once my grandmother gave me a beautiful book for Christmas. It was very special to me because of where it came from. So there you've used the past tense. You've started in the past, and then we can build on that. Compared to other gifts that I've received, this one was particularly special. And then you can immediately begin discussing the book itself. The book it is about, and then you've moved into the present tense. You can talk about the characters. Maybe you can add a little conditional in there as well, or some passive voice, while you're talking about it. If the character had done this instead of that, or perhaps if it's a reference book, you could continue describing it in some way. The book is from National Geographic. If it was perhaps from another wildlife company, I might not like it so much. So there already you've used the past, the present, you've moved on into comparatives, conditionals, and further than that, you can go on to use the passive voice. If the question is asking you to describe a particular situation involving a conversation, maybe that you overheard, you can also use reported speech. But to turn it into a narrative allows you to talk about it in a way that is more natural. You can get to use more vocabulary, and more importantly, you can demonstrate the best bits of English. It is true that you need to be a little bit creative to do that. And when you go to an exam, not everyone is ready just to tell a story like a conversational piece, But I do understand that. I do understand that people at large, are very nervous, but it's something that you do really need to try. So the more creative you can be, the better it is, Although you're sitting with the examiner, if you can just imagine a conversation with a friend who's asked you to describe something, it makes it much easier and it takes away the pressure a little bit. Your views are not really so important. The question is a catalyst to get you to talk. If you do something wrong in the Ielts, they will stop you. Okay, so for example, if you're not understanding the question and you go off on a completely different route, they will stop you and they'll say, that's not what I meant. This is what I mean. And then they'll give you a chance to try again. That can be very off-putting, but it's good that at least they give you a second chance. So, the more of a narrative and a creative piece you can create, the easier the Ielts will become. But if you're just going to describe something in a very basic way, then of course you're going to get a very basic mark. In principle, the same things apply to the written part of the exam. Of course, the academic part is very, very different. The academic part of the exam, you're expected to use your academic knowledge to summarize information. That doesn't take a lot of effort, but it does mean that you should be accustomed to doing reports at college and university. The listening part is perhaps the most difficult of all, because often there's no real way that you can prepare for that. If they're going to ask you for a postal code, like a zip code of the country, or if they're going to ask you to spell a surname in the listening part, there really isn't much of a way you can prepare overnight. But generally speaking, as part of your English preparation for the exam, it would be very important for you to be watching British TV, maybe a British soap opera, a British drama, just so that you're more accustomed with these kind of things. Of course, you're not going to know every single surname in the UK, but the listening part is a little bit more unforgiving in the sense that you really need to get it all completely perfect, and that can make it very difficult. Well, this has been a very basic introduction to IELTS, and I hope you found it useful. Let's talk again soon.